Thank you. Good afternoon. Immediately. Good afternoon, everyone. It's not playing. Good afternoon, everyone. It's not playing. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this exciting panel discussion and one of the most urgent challenges of our time. My name is PC Philippa Kraidol. I am the Child Fund Child Ambassador from Sierra Leone and also the National President from the Children's Forum Network under the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs. So today's program, I will be your moderator as we dive into this inspiring discussion with some brilliant minds from different ministries, different departments, and different countries. I want to officially welcome you to today's discussion. Feel free to listen, ask questions, and also to learn.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. The President of the Minister of Environment and Climate Change in Sierra Leone, negotiator of Rwanda Environment Management Authority, and then lastly, the youth panelists, and everyone in the sitting. I am by the names of Maxwell Del Michael. I'm a co-moderator to Philippa, who is here. Today's session is going to be good, and I welcome all of you to be part of this session, and feel free to ask any question. If there's anything that you're doubting about, you are free to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's my co-moderator. So for today's session, we are going to start with the welcome address. And I will be introducing Mr. Malama to give the welcome address and also to give us the concepts of the Sustainability Fund system and climate change for a child rights perspective. You are welcome, Mr. Malama. Can we please clap for him, please?
So thank you very much, everyone, and especially for joining us and being part of this conversation. So allow me to ride on the existing protocols that have already been shared by our child moderators, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. This conversation is extremely important today, and especially in the context of the kind of a countries, sort of the kind of the continent of Africa that we are living on now, with the specific impacts of climate change. In one of the studies that Save the Children, for example, has launched in recent times, we've seen in the past few weeks that there has been a disproportionate impact of climate change on children. One in eight children is adversely impacted by the crisis in terms of whether it's access to food, whether it's access to education, and among other things. Now, that 1 in 8 translates to about 300 million children being impacted by climate change. In many cases, it's an issue of access to food. If children don't have access to food, then of course they are not going to have access to health, they are not going to have access to education. I'm thinking of a story of a child that I met in recent times by the name of Zinle from Zimbabwe, 14-year-old child who spoke about the drought that has impacted Southern Africa. That drought that has impacted Southern Africa means that a child like Zinle is having only one meal per day, when they were having 3 meals per day just before the drought. We know that that has got adverse impacts on children's health, not just in the immediate term, but also in the long term as well. So these are health, education impacts, even protection impacts. When families don't have access to food, they obviously are less likely to be able to provide adequate protection for children in their homes as well as in their communities. And so we see a strong connection between food as well as access to rights for children, especially children who are most impacted by inequality, discrimination, and other forms of child's rights crisis that we have seen and experienced. The United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child issued very specific guidelines in 2022-2023, known as General Comment 26. Within that General Comment 26, there is specific guidelines on how the world needs to respond to the impact of climate change on children. In today's conversation, we will hear directly from children on their experiences around food insecurity. We will also hear from youth on their experience on food insecurity. And then we are also going to hear from the climate negotiators, who are also going to share with us from their perspective what are the issues that they need to put within the negotiations at COP29. But also, more importantly, we are also going to hear from our Honorable Minister from Sierra Leone, who is going to speak to us from a policy perspective. What are the policy issues that need to be put in place? But I'm hoping that you are also going to just enjoy this space and also share your views and voices. So, Philippa, let me not say too much. Let me hand over to you and Maxwell for the next part of the conversation.
Can we please clap for him? That was a wonderful presentation on welcome address. I want to say thank you very much. Indeed, children are really suffering, and I want us all to know that we are calling the world in order for us to have a more simple way in responding to food insecurity towards children. So, so now we are going to move on to the next step here, and we are going to play a short video from a child from Rwanda.
My name is Diogene. I'm 16 years old. I am a child advocate for children's rights and environmental protection. I'm born and raised in northern province of Rwanda. In my country, Rwanda, like other African countries, we experienced serious disasters time last year in 2023, when disasters like landslide and floods occurred in some districts of northern province, western province, and south. The disaster destroyed properties, farmlands, and a high number of lives of people had been claimed, including children. The disasters resulted into food insecurity and a huge reduction of production from agriculture since the crops were damaged. The parents were challenged by cutting different rights and requirements for their children since agriculture, where a lot of Rwandans depend on their income, was damaged. Indeed, the prices of food had been multiplied, all resulting into challenged life. The government responded by maintaining the damaged infrastructures and resettling people from hazardous areas, but families were challenged by damaged crops. I would like to request government of the world to invest in controlling the effects of climate change sustainably as early as possible before disasters, by allocating finances to planned and modernized agriculture systems and resettling people in less risky areas. The government should ensure food security by applying better methods of farming, sustaining and conserving harvest and growing resistant crops, strengthening terracing, agroforestry, and other environmental friendly cropping systems. We recommend our government to support Rwandan children to attend environmental related and climate justice conferences like Conference of Parties in person, to ensure the views of Rwandan children are heard and influencing globally, and to ensure the respect of child right of participation as it is a component of AU and UN human rights mechanism. As I end, I'm eager to request the meaningful engagement and consideration of young people in fighting with climate change effect as a key to approach it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful video from a boy from Rwanda. One thing which I learned is that he is pleading to government leaders, policymakers, that they should finance agriculture, climate finance, to agriculture sectors, not only in Rwanda, but we are pleading that all leaders from different African countries should support climate, should support agriculture in these different countries, so that by that the food can become very cheap and children can have access to this food in their different countries. So now we are moving out to the panel discussion in depth. Sorry for that. So now we are moving on to the panel discussion. We are going to have brilliant minds from different ministries, from different countries, who are going to educate us on how best we can solve food insecurity from different African countries. One of our panelists is a policymaker. He holds a Master's of Science in Economics and Mathematical Economics from the London School of Economics, which is LSE, and a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Texas at Austin. He started his career in international finance as a quantitative strategy modeling financial instrument for interest rate products. He's a money market and a structured fund index. That means he has money. At the Golden Search International in London, where he served till 2008. From 2008 to 2012, he was at the forefront of innovation in Sierra Leone's finance and financial technology space. He helped launch the country's first mutual fund and managed the operations of Splash Mobile Money, the country's first mobile payment platform. He was the co-lead of professional service at Broadway Technology, a leading provider of electronic trading solutions for interest rate and inflation markets worldwide. He was a member of the firm's management team and led a global team of engagement leads and consultants. For more than a decade, he led the deployment and integration of enterprise electronic trading platforms for macroeconomic desks at global investment banks. He served as a special advisor to the Minister of Finance in Sierra Leone, which is the government of Sierra Leone, from April 2020 to May 2021. He worked with ministries, departments, and agencies to design and roll out major government policies in Sierra Leone. He also helped coordinate the country's economic response program for COVID-19. With formidable experience delivering technically complex global projects, he brings modern applicable knowledge and problem-solving skills to advance Sierra Leone's environment and climate change agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? He's currently serving as the Minister of Environment, and he is from my country, Sierra Leone. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome, with a clap, help me welcome the Minister of Environment from Sierra Leone, Mr. Abdullahi. Kindly take a seat, sir. Thank you. So the other panelists will be introduced by my co-moderator.
Okay, thank you. Here we are having a 17-year-old climate champion from Zambia, living near Lake Bangweolo. She's witnessed firsthand and devastating impacts of climate-related floods on children, displacing them from homes and damaging schools. Lake Bangweolo houses several islands, among them Lunga, Chisha, and Chilubi. Jerusha has witnessed firsthand how climate-related flash floods cause children to migrate from flooded areas and live in poor conditions as they wait for their homeland to dry and move back during the season. As the vice president of our school's climate change club, Jerusha raises awareness through radio and community programs, organizes tree planting, and advocates for the children's right, with support from Care and Nature Zambia and Save the Children under the Generation Hope campaign. She is advocated for children's environmental rights at key climate events, including COP28, Global COP29 prep meetings, and RCOY 2024, campaigning for child-sensitive policies. And this girl goes by the names of Jerusha. She's one of the child panelists who will be participating today. Let us welcome her.
Thank you very much. So our next panelist, she is an agronomist and planet health specialist. Her research focuses on innovative biological control methods for plant pathogens, with a master tool in sustainable management of Horticultural Agroecosystems and an engineer degree in plant and environment protection. She has developed a profound expert in sustainable ecosystem management and biodiversity conservation. Her work has been widely recognized, earning her numerous awards and the opportunity to publish extensive in renowned scientific journals. In addition to her research, she is deeply committed to education and mentorship. Her dedication to fostering the next generation of scientists is further demonstrated by her active participation in international conferences and workshops, as well as her leadership roles in various biodiversity and climate initiatives. She is fluent in French and proficient in English. What a good combination. She continues to make significant contributions to the field of planet Earth and environmental sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome. Keep on clapping, please. Help me welcome another nice personality, Dr. Michelle.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have another panelist who is in charge of coordinating the greenhouse gas inventory report for Rwanda to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That's the UNFCCC. Specifically in the sectors of agriculture, waste, and other land use. He also serves as the national focal point to the climate and clean air coalition. Now he is participating in the climate negotiation on the thematic area of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the negotiator of the government Rwanda Environment Authority, who's none other than David Okweshaka. This the last one?
Okay. Welcome, and we want to say thank you. As we continue with our panel discussion, on the event which is Sowing the Seeds of Change, Intergenerational Dialogue for Food Secure Tomorrow. And our main goal is to ensure that children are being secured, there is enough food in our environment. So we are going to start with the child panelist first. So the child panelist, can you please share with us what you've learned and what have you learned about the impacts of climate change on food and agriculture that you think it is important for everyone here to know, and how do you think climate financing can help address these challenges?
I firstly pass on my warm greetings to ladies and gentlemen that are present and to all children of my age. I warmly welcome everybody present. I'm going to start by addressing the question. According to the question that has been asked, it is, I can say I can divide it into two. I'm going to explain on the impacts of climate change relating to agriculture and food and how it has affected everybody. And I'll also talk about issues like how climate financing can be solved, or how can climate financing address these issues. Firstly, if we look at the impacts of climate change regarding to food and agriculture, you'll find that this is one of the sectors that everybody around the world, regardless of how big or small a country is, everybody is dependent on food in one way or the other. Now, having climate change as one of the major issues that everybody around the world is dealing with, we can talk that it has affected or impacted the food and agriculture area in the sense that countries have not been having enough food. When I say countries have not been having enough food, mostly we're talking of issues of drought, floodings that are affecting countries all over the world. You find that people need to have food enough for them to survive and to live, but because of the same issue of climate change, which is affecting the food production, countries do not have inadequate food, and as a result, there's no proper food security in the world. We can't say that, no, we have food that will secure for the coming generation due to the same issues of climate, which is bringing about drought. You can also talk about economies of a country. We're not talking of economies of a country. We need a stable country. We need an economy which is stable for a prosperous country and for a country that is helping other countries to develop. You need to have a stable economy. Now, when you look at the key factor in a stable economy, it's food as well. If you have certain countries, they have good cultivation, they're able to export. Out from the exporting of things, you find that they have enough resources to develop their own countries. Now, here is a country that does not have enough food to feed its own country, feed its own people in the country, or even to feed people from outside. How do you expect such a country to have a stable economy? So climate change has affected food production. Food production is also affecting economies of certain countries. We'll also talk about other issues like diseases, proper diet. I'll mainly focus on us children. Our growth, our well-being mostly depend on the kind of water we take, the kind of food that we have. But here is a scenario where you have a country which does not even have healthy food for children. It only has food which you're not even sure if it's safe to take or not safe to take. So climate change has impacted the sector of health for children and even for some adults of certain issues. Of certain diseases, maybe they could be prohibited by the doctors not to take certain things. So you discover that with the coming up of the issues of climate change, people now, it's like their health is now not stable. You don't even know what you eat. I'll talk mainly of Zambia. We have shima as our staple food, where we depend on maize. So the large cultivation of maize, if you have enough maize in the country, it means you have mealie meal that will cater for everyone. Now here is a situation whereby drought occurs due to climate change, too much floodings. It means there will be no proper production of maize. And no proper production of maize, no food in the country. No food in the country, no stable economy. No stable economy will read about debt crises of borrowing from others to sustain. Now you're borrowing from others to sustain. How do you return back the credit, which later ends up bringing out confusion and issues that are not wanted. So all these as a result of climate change and its impact on food security. On food and agriculture. When you look at agriculture, farmers also needs to be stable. These people that are doing the agriculture, they need to have good health so that they can do the work. But here we have issues of drought and, some people become mentally disturbed of like, how am I going to cultivate? There's no rain this year. Maybe they have made hectares and they had even had huge land for cultivation, but you discover that because of there's no rain, perhaps there's too much flooding, the person didn't have a proper production from what they had expected to get. So as a result of that, you find that maybe they are disturbed and they can't work well. All that is affecting the food and agriculture issues of countries or even in different parts of the world. The food is also one last thing I would also mention regarding to food, regarding to the impact of climate change on food and agriculture. It's the issue of insecurity. The issue of insecurity relating to the agriculture sector is very important that need to be addressed by everybody. As people have different food securities and in their own countries, they have their own ways of storing food. But the question comes in is now that we have drought, we have climate change, how do we secure the food in our country? How do we ensure that the agriculture is stable? For example, here we do all understand the issues of photosynthesis. You require a bit of sunlight maybe so that the crops are healthy, but you can see how the weather is here. You're not even sure if you have stable ones or not. You go to other countries, you find that drought is all over. It's like, it's a country where people live, but it looks like a desert because of the sun and the drying up. So you understand, how do we secure the food or how do we keep it? So mostly I'll talk of climate change has mostly affected there's no proper food security in the country, the economy becomes disturbed, and also there are other issues that rise up like death, diseases, due to the fact that climate change is bringing impact on the food security. These are the points that I will highlight on the impacts of climate change regarding to food and agriculture. Now, the other thing I would also talk about or address is climate financing. Climate financing is one of the ways that we can use to address the challenges. In my previous talking, I have spoken about the issues of diseases and people dying in how due to the fact that they do not have proper food. So now you also understand to say that climate financing can bring a lot of benefits. It can help stabilize things that were unable to stabilize. For example, we say we're going to maybe finance, let me talk of Zambia. For example, we say we're going to finance Zambia to improve the food production. You find that when you maybe fund Zambia in relating to issues of climate change, the things that we're complaining of, especially droughts and not having clean water, not having proper food, the government could now start providing alternative solutions on how to improve those issues. You discover that most of the challenges that could not have been dealt with would now be dealt with because of they have enough funds to help overcome the challenges of climate change. Also, in terms of climate financing, it could also help to prevent people from, having unnecessary debt from other countries as they already have funds, because the biggest issue that we're having right now is climate change. It has affected a lot of sectors apart from the food and agriculture. So if you have funds that can be used to address those issues, if you have funds that can work in the food production sector, you find that the chances of people, especially children, dying anyhow will reduce. Most of the times as children, when you are coming from home, you didn't leave any food. That is as a result of not having proper production due to climate change. You find that you have food anywhere. Like you'll be, I'll take food from here, I'll take food from that. So you're not even sure. So the main point, the main thing that I want to enlighten on the issue of finances. If you finance a country, you will be able to end up this food insecurity, stabilize the economy, reduce chances of people dying anyhow from diseases or unexpected things that is as a result of climate change. I think I'll sum up for now with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I want to recognize the presence of Professor Shada. Just be well assured that we recognize your presence here and you are welcome.
Thank you very much. That was actually a mind-blowing presentation from our child panelist. As per now, I'm not going to ask the child panelist, but I'm going to ask the Minister of Environment and Climate Change in Sierra Leone. And for this question, I'm going to put it under the perspectives of impact, of assessment, and financial support. Can you share any recent assessments or data on how climate change is currently impacting food security in Rwanda, particularly for vulnerable populations like children, and how climate financing is addressing these challenges? Please engage.
Thank you so much. I think I can hear myself. Because he said Rwanda, the question directly is addressing to me, not the minister as he said. Let me get clear to you the picture of how agriculture in Rwanda is. First of all, our agriculture in Rwanda is based on rain-fed. It's a rain-fed agriculture. Means it depends on rain for water to be able to sustain the crops. And the second fact, the country of Rwanda, for those maybe who don't know, we are a hill country, or the western part, northern part, very hilly, steep slopes. So growing crops on such land, it's quite challenging. Going to the eastern, it is where there is, it is lowland, but there is drought. So on each side of the corner, we have those problems. But adding climate change, It's another key challenge that have changed many things in Rwanda on agriculture. On the past times, as the records, for our records, we used to have the rainfall. We know we are in tropical countries. We have a good rainfall along the years. But now, when we try to look how the rainfall is distributed, it is coming in short, but very intense. Now, we're now having the heavy floods, rainfall, which we didn't use to have in the previous time. Maybe learning from the video, for those who have followed on the past video of the child of Rwanda speaking up about the incident that happened in 2023. Maybe this is the current one I can share to you. And on the night of 2 and 3rd of May, we had an incident. The rainfall falls for all the night, and we have people lost lives, like 130 in one night. So on crops, we lost every crops in Western Province, in Northern Province. When the Ministry of Economic Finance tried to account for all those losses, you know what? It was like 417 millions of USD. Imagine for one night. How could you reimburse those losses that have been in 1 month, in one night, sorry. If you try to look at those impacts, how agriculture is being affected, imagine you are a farmer on one night, in the morning, you saw that your all crops have been washed away, all your crops. Maybe for the sake of God, you are still alive, maybe, but also your crops is washed away. This is more than a numbers. Maybe I'm talking about the numbers. It's more than a numbers. It's a lives that have been lost. It's a livelihood that have been impacted. It's the child that gone hungry. It's all about. Maybe sometimes we talk about statistics and it remains as a statistics, but it talks a lot in our lives. So this is how we have been affected. Maybe this is one event. Imagine if I try to consolidate all the events along the year. You can imagine how the loss is big. So I'll try to look at the climate finance as the question have been addressed, how climate finance is supporting Rwanda. We're having those incidents, and according to the prediction of the climate, when you try to look in the future, it will be very, very difficult. So the climate finance, yes, we are trying to raise the climate finance as we could. Even you have in Rwanda, there is a specific institution in charge of mobilizing those climate finance. We call it Rwanda Green Fund, where specifically it addresses all the impact by mobilizing the climate finance. So we have tried, but of course there is still a very, very big gap, because I told you one incident that can cost 417 million of USD for one night. So, and we could not even raise that amount of money in 1 year. So we are still trying to raise the amount of money. Maybe a typical example, we have raised about 138 million of USD from Green Climate Fund to be able to sustain our land, to establish terraces. Terraces is one of practice on agriculture in Rwanda because we are on the hill. This is what we try to do, agroforestry, so that maybe at least we can go at the level where we can sustain our agriculture. This is what we are trying to do. And even this is touch, including children. I see here children here presented here, because when we are making the project, we make sure that inclusivity is the main part of those projects. So this is moderator. This is what I can share to our colleagues, what we have faced with climate change, and what we are trying to do in terms of raising the climate finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the answer. I don't know what my co-moderator has to ask any of the panelists here.
Okay, thank you very much. That story, it's really sad. I cannot imagine how children might have suffered because of that. So moving forward, I'm going to ask my own minister from Sierra Leone, the Minister of Environment. So Minister, Minister Abdullah. I'm so happy to see him, that's why. And um, how is your ministry, the Ministry of Environment, integrating child-centered approaches into national food system policies? And what role does climate financing play in ensuring that these policies at national are effectively implemented for children?
Thank you very much, Philippa. Good morning or good afternoon. I bring you greetings from the government and the people of Sierra Leone. Let's talk real instead of being abstract. Climate. When we're talking climate change, let's put people at the center of the conversation. The problem itself is an intergenerational problem because it affects across generations. And when we usually talk about solutions to the climate issue, the timelines will tell you that in many cases, it's not just this generation, but future generations that are going to be part of the solution. So it's very important that we get the young people involved now. And there are many reasons for that. One, it affects all of us. So it's important to factor them into any climate action. The second is that the young people today, the children today, are going to be the ones that are carrying on the work that we are doing now. So the earlier you get them involved, the better prepared they will be once they take over from us. They're also very innovative. I mean, they can come up with brilliant ideas that can be part of the climate action. But young people can also be very effective at sensitization. By that I mean, if you teach a kid about a problem or an issue, and you then teach him how to prevent or resolve that issue, it's much easier for the message to stick with the parents. Because when the kids go home and they talk to the parents, they're the ones that will reinforce that message to their parents. So for all of these reasons, we think it's important to get young people and children involved. So it means getting whether it's in the schools, part of the education system, or getting clubs, nature clubs, to spread the message. Food is it's probably one of the ways that climate change really affects many countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Because agriculture is a big sector in most of our economies. And as my fellow panelists just mentioned, that agriculture tends to be rain-fed, which means that over centuries, our people have sort of had a schedule. They know when rain starts, they know when to plant, they know when to harvest, because rainfall patterns have been predictable. What we've seen over the past couple of decades, is that rainfall patterns have become more and more erratic. And that has a major impact on the output of farmers, not just in Sierra Leone, but across Africa, because it affects the yield. Droughts or floods can wipe out crops for the year, and that means wipes out crop income for the year. So it's affecting food security in a couple of ways. Food security for the country because you're not producing as much food, as much output from your agriculture, but also it's affecting income, which means that these farmers, it makes it more difficult for them to support their families. And whether it's food security or income, children and young people are affected. So if you think about it, as adults, our primary responsibilities will be to take care of our families. Put a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food on the table. If our income is drastically affected because crops are wiped out, it automatically affects those three things. And food, which is a necessity for all of us, will be affected across generations. If kids don't have food to eat, they don't have the nutrition, that affects their ability to learn. It affects growth. It has health effects. So when we think of, as a government, when we're thinking of climate action and adaptation, we're thinking, how can we use climate finance to address the underlying factors that cause this food insecurity? It means investing more in infrastructure so that our farmers can then practice climate smart agriculture. So agriculture that is not vulnerable or as vulnerable to climate change, to smooth out the risks associated with agriculture as they practice it now. Yes, it's worked for hundreds of years, for multiple generations, but the reality is that going forward, if we don't make the investments in our communities to reduce these risks, then we're going to continue having food insecurity. Not just food, but water is another, water insecurity, and it just will keep getting worse. And that's why one of the things that we're pushing for at this COP is to scale up the financing so that it matches the problem. To scale it up, to also streamline the process for accessing the finance, because the needs are immediate, which means that the response has to be immediate. If the need is now and it takes you 5-10 years to access the finance, by that time, the impact in many of these communities will be, maybe past the tipping point, or in many cases, if we're talking about children, 5-10 years, that's a whole generation that has gone through a system without the necessary intervention to address, what are essentially pressing needs that need to be addressed, not tomorrow, not 10 months from now, but now, because we are approaching this with a matter of urgency, because the problem is now, and the solutions need to be now. The children, our young people, the 5-year-old kid does not wait till they're 10 years old, does not want to wait till then to have food security. That food security should be now, so that child gets the nutrition that is needed. The stress that is in the home, which causes all sorts of health issues, is removed, and the child can grow up in a normal environment. So that's from a policy point of view. We need to get youth and young people involved for the multiple reasons I outlined. And from an intervention point of view, when we're talking about adaptation, we're looking at making the agriculture more resilient to climate change, because it's only by doing so that we can bring back food security and water security to our communities that are badly affected.
So I want to understand more, because coming for COP29, I'm serving. When I go back to my country, children are going to hold me accountable. So serving as the national president, I want to understand this. I want to understand this question, like, how best have you been involving children into your activities at the Ministry of Environment? And because I want children from network, and that's of the Ministry of Environment, to have a partnership. So whenever you've been having activities in Sierra Leone, to be involved in us. So I want to know what are some of the activities when you have in Sierra Leone, when you've been involving children into these activities, and how best are you trying to improve on these approaches in ensuring that children participate in your ministry when it comes to food system in Sierra Leone?
Thank you. It's really great when you have young people involved, because they hold you accountable. I'm lucky in the sense that I have youth ambassadors who are passionate about what's going on in the climate. And it's important for these young people to hold policymakers accountable. Now, and it goes both ways. We also need to hold them accountable so that they stay involved. So it's not just that we meet here once a year at these conferences, but it's a continuous engagement throughout the year. One of the things that we've done is the focal person for the UNFCCC has created a group of young people who we're trying to keep them engaged year-round. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a conversation with UNICEF. And what we want to do is start having what we call hackathons. That's where you bring young people together and you present to them real-world problems. And maybe over a couple of days or over a week, you assign different groups the task of coming up with solutions to these real-world problems. And I think what you would find out is that these young people can be very innovative. And they can think of these problems or think of solutions to these problems outside the box that policymakers are not even thinking about. But it's not just the fact that they're thinking about these ways to solve these problems. It's also about keeping them engaged. Because like I said, the timelines for solving the climate issues they're long. You know, when we go to these negotiations, we're talking 2050, 2060, 2070. I'm probably not going to be around for that. It's going to be Philippa and her generation that are going to take the reins to solve these problems. So getting them engaged now is in the interests of policymakers. So when we hand over the baton, we know that we're handing over to capable young people who can continue with the vital work. So when I retire, I know that climate action is in good hands for not just her, my kids, and for future generations. So I am looking forward, when we go back, to seeing you and some of the other young people that have come from Sierra Leone that I've seen being engaged here, to be part of not just the hackathons, but to be part of the engagements. Because I think young people are the best ambassadors for getting the word out. And we as a government want to leverage these assets, these resources that we have, so people understand what climate change is about, but also people understand what climate action is, why we're engaging in climate action, because it's only when you have the people with you that you can implement policies that take hold for the long run.
Thank you very much. I just hope when we return, we'll do the partnership. We have to hold you more accountable for that.
Thank you very much. On the stage here, we're only left with one person and we know who she is. This question directly goes to the youth representative, who is Ms. Michelle. It's going to be according to youth involvement and financial support. How do you think young people can be more effectively involved in decision-making processes related to sustainable food systems and climate change? And how can climate financing support these efforts?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am happy to be there in this panel for intergenerational discussion. And thank you for the question. I think youth involvement is not only important, but it's also crucial. And I believe that to effectively engage youth, we can focus on some area. First, I will mention that integrate youth in decision making body process and have an inclusive governance structure. Young people should have been given a seat at the table of decision making, and like climate negotiation, food system forum, and also environmental advisory board, so they can truly be involved. We don't want to just be invited. We want to be engaged and involved. From my own experience, I am a youth negotiator from Burkina Faso, and I had the chance to be to bring my perspective within my delegation. So it's here at COP29. I'm negotiating for Sharm el Sheikh joint work on agriculture and food security. So this is the inclusion that we want to bring, that we want to bring this perspective. As I said, we don't just want to be invited. We don't just want to be listening. We want to contribute to policy recommendation. I think youth can be allowed to co-create policy recommendation with experts, researcher, policymaker to truly engage. No, this is the first thing. And the second thing, I think we should focus on capacity building. To have a meaningful participation of youth, they have to access to education and resources. So we should have training, strong training about advocacy, sustainable agriculture, food security. And you talk about finance. I think we should have a targeted funding for youth-led initiative to help you to scale up this project, because we have many youth have some drive impactful solution on the ground. They don't have enough finance to scale up this project. So I think it's very important. And the second thing, I will say that we should simplify the way to get access to this fund, because young people face administrative barrier when they try to get to this fund. So we have to try to find some processes or mechanism so they can have access to this fund and use it effectively.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mitchell. As per now, we are going for the final questions, and I'll hand over the mic to my co-moderator.
Thank you very much. Are we not learning? We are indeed learning, right? These are experts. We are indeed learning. And so we are going now for the final questions. The question to the Minister of Environment. I want to hold you accountable when I go back to my county, because climate change is really affecting children in Sierra Leone. So what strategy are you going to put in place? Because, you know, children are different from youth. The way children do things, they are different. And the way climate change is affecting children, it's different from youth. I know you've been doing work when it comes to youth, but I want us now, when we go to Sierra Leone, let's focus on things that are relating to children. We have a representative here from different organizations. I'm from Child Fund. I also have my national welfare chairperson. She is being supported by Save the Children. So when we go back to Sierra Leone, we want to hold you accountable. How best we can work together and ensure that these children are being protected. So what are the strategies that you are planning to improve the climate sectors when it comes to the children? And how best you are going to ensure that there is climate finance from the government of Sierra Leone to support the activities on children when it comes to climate change?
Thank you very much, Philippa. So for Sierra Leone, climate action is in all of government. We're using an all of government approach. That means all of government has to have a seat at the table. The reason being that if it's just the Ministry of Environment that's planning climate action, then you have blind spots. But if you bring in the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Energy. If you get all of these ministries across the table, then they know their sectors much better than the Ministry of the Environment. And together, when you are formulating a program, you get to address the needs of these different sets of stakeholders. And so the first level is at the central government across all ministries. And then we're looking at across different levels of government. So, and that's where the central government will devolve some of climate action to local government. Again, because the expertise lies in different areas of government, it's important that when you design a program for climate action, you get all stakeholders involved. Now, the way that would work, Philippa, is that the line ministry that you work with will be part of that program. Now, granted, you know my office is open to you young people anytime to come in and have conversations. But I'm also counting on you as young people to be involved, to stay involved, to ask questions, to not just ask questions, but to demand that you are brought along to be part of this process. Now, don't forget, you are stakeholders. 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'm not going to be the one sitting here. You're going to be the one sitting here. So it's important that now is the time that you, all of you young people, get involved and hold the current, policymakers to account and be part of that process. It's only when collectively we're all involved in the process that we can come up with solutions that meet the needs of our communities and our countries. So I am looking forward to hearing more from you, whether it's directly or through the ministry, the ministry that's in charge for gender and children affairs, to make sure that that key constituency of children and young people and women have their say, and that their needs for climate action are met when we're planning a national program. So I'll stop there for now, but I'm hoping to continue this conversation when we get back to Freetown.
Can we give him a round of applause, please? I love the word when the minister said, you people, children, you should demand. When I'm going to Sierra Leone, I will demand. I'll bring my work plan because I want climate change to be popularized, to be known in Sierra Leone. And one of the best ministry that is responsible is your ministry. So after I will make sure these videos are videos of you go. We say, Minister, when we are at COP29, this and what he says. So I know after we are going to do the work plan together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This question will go to the child panelist, and it will go to your vision. Because honestly speaking, all people here have different visions of goals to achieve. And this is a vision of the future and the funding needs. I'm going to ask you, how do you envision a sustainable food future? And what role do you think climate financing can play in helping children and youth to achieve this vision?
Thanks once more for the opportunity. I'll start with the vision. I believe everybody present here has a vision. It could be of different things, of different situations. We move in the world of imagination. You imagine something, it starts with an imagination. To have a country that is well developed, it starts with the imagination. Policymakers sit down, they imagine something, and eventually, due to the fact that they are persistent, they achieve the imagination. I always think of having a world where you don't hear people dying out of hunger. You don't hear farmers crying that, no, this year I've lost my money, I've lost my land, everything because of drought. You don't hear people complaining that, no, my children, my wife, they have passed away, they are suffering from malnutrition because of lack of food. A problem of lack of food, a problem of having a country that is affecting, having a country where food production is affecting by climate change does not exist. That's the kind of that's the kind of a country or a world I envision when we relate to food and production. Now, how can such a world come up? Firstly, I'll give a few points so that everybody can have an idea on how we can bring about such a world, such a good world where nobody cries because of food. So firstly, we can try to increase the sensitization. A lot of people are aware of the issues of climate change, but when you start moving within countries, deepest villages, communities, how well do they understand the issues of climate change? When we tell them or give them instructions on how we can avoid the impacts or issues of climate change, how well do they understand and how do they react? How do they respond to these issues? How are you doing your sensitization so that we can bring about this beautiful world? Another thing you can look about is the improvement in technology. We have people around the world who have improved in technology. If they don't have enough rainfall, they are using other alternative methods like irrigation. They are able to provide water for themselves and their crops are not damaged. So how far is the technology moving in the world? Who has, and how many countries can we say that no, if rain doesn't come, they have the required technology for them to bring about crops that are healthy and good for everybody? Apart from the technology, how many methods of farming are we implementing so far? What kind of people are involved in the farming activities? You know, it's important also to include young ones in the activities of farming. The issues is when they go farming, they don't take young ones and whatever. But I feel like in the agriculture sector, as the farming activities are happening, especially to commercial farmers, not like giving the children work, but you just invite them to show that this is the kind of seed, this is how we do it. So initially, as they are growing up, there is that mind of knowing, oh, cultivation should be done in this angle to ensure that whether those people are present or they are absent, children can also do the proper cultivation that is required to have that beautiful world where people do not suffer, do not cry because they don't have enough food or because the agriculture sector is affected. I also talk about what role can climate financing play in helping children and also youths? I mainly focus on children, but I also try to touch on the youths. For children, climate financing is very important to enhance participation. You know, children are people whereby if you teach them one thing, if you find that the child has forgotten, then it could be because of other factors. But if you teach them in a way that they are meant to understand, they can't forget that idea. They'll be moving with it. So if you say that you help them, especially now that you are increasing the participation of children, you'll see a lot of changes because each time they begin up a program, you fund it. Let's say they begin up a tree planting program and you fund it. Mostly persistent, increasingly. From where I come from, there's not enough water, but ever since the idea of planting trees have come up, we've been trying our level best. We look for water somewhere. We water the trees to ensure that we try to see on how we can help to change the issues of climate change. So every time you fund a country in issues relating to climate change, you solve you solve more than one of the problems that they are facing. You solve their issues of food, the issues, you touch various sectors because climate change is not only affecting the food and agricultural sector, but different sectors. So you bring in funds in a country, you help the country to develop. When you help a country to develop, you bring about poverty reduction. If you don't have poverty reduction, there'll be that development of whereby nobody will suffer and won't even have to cry for food like the way we're crying. The next time we gather like this, if we have such ideas, you find that we only gather like this to celebrate, to say, oh no, we have found all the solutions to the problems that we have. Not gathering to discuss about the problem, but gathering to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, she is speaking on the behalf of all children in Africa. So, because of time, the youth representative, we want to listen to you so that you can give us your final statement on ensuring that there is food secure for tomorrow.
Thank you. I want to share some action that we are doing in Burkina Faso for food security or climate adaptation. Is a program that we have with an organization that I co-fund. It's Youth Climate Initiative. We focus on promoting sustainable agriculture like agroecology. So we have a program that we call Route for Resilience. In French is Les Racines de la Résilience. And we teach and we have some capacity building program for youth farmers to help them try to use sustainable technique for agriculture and also to use local seeds and friendly method for pest control. And we have a community garden for this, so we are doing this on the ground. And this is the kind of action that we are doing in Burkina Faso. It's just an example. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Maybe as moderator said, the final statement. Maybe what I can share before we came here for Baku, we gathered in Rwanda, we met the children. Me was the first experience sitting on the workshop of the children. What was surprised me was like they understand everything around climate change. They can suggest solutions, as Minister said. If they sat together, not invited or but engaged, they can propose real solutions. Even in Rwanda, we are planning for the coming National Climate Action Plan. We call it NDC. We'll do a separate assessment of how children rights can be mainstreamed in our plan. Of course, plan is one thing and implementation is another. Yes, planning is good when everything is considered, but implementation, we know that the right of children must be particulate, responded, and respected. So we want to ensure that climate action are responding to the children's rights, are included in every step. As the minister said, how we work is like all the ministries, all the sector sitting on the table and discuss. It's not like, even me, I'm coming from the Ministry of Environment in Rwanda. It's not like Ministry of Environment is planning for something for the country. Everyone in each sector propose the action and we start together and implement it together. So this is just to ensure that the children are included, their rights, their proposal are respected, and we know that they have ability because they are the one in tomorrow. They're the one to be in tomorrow. They are the one who understand how, if they're impacted now, and even tomorrow it will be very bad. So this is just to ensure that we consider their rights, and here they are here present, even back home. We want to ensure that they are responding, they are being engaged from the school in their curriculum. We ensure that the climate change aspect is included so they can be well informed about what is going on around. Thank you, moderator, for this time.
Thank you very much. We want to say thank you so much. We've learned a lot and we truly do appreciate. Minister, when we go back to Sierra Leone, what we've discussed are only accountable because I want to ensure that we look forward to it. I want to ensure that we popularize climate change in Sierra Leone. So our panelists, our child representative, thank you so much. Our youth representative, thank you so much. We hope that you continue this great work. Do you want to say anything?
As closing remarks and also Thanksgiving remarks, I would like to thank everyone that took their time to come here, especially the panelists who are in front here. The appreciation goes to the Minister of Environment in Sierra Leone, then the child panelist, and the negotiator, and the rest. Thank you very much. That was a very pleased, wonderful explanation of those things. Thank you.
Yeah, you may now take your seat. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to welcome Professor Shada, our grandfather, to share his experience on food security, starting when he was young, like me, when he was a child, till now that he's old. Can we please welcome Professor Shada? Yes, sir. Professor Shada, you can share your experience. And then while Professor Shada will be sharing his experience, educating us, I will be passing this white paper to each and everyone sitting here. We are going to write our commitment to food security for tomorrow. Thank you. We want to learn from our grandpa.
So you want to grill me, I would like to give my greetings. Can you hear me? Please accept my greetings, and I assumed I'm not going to be part of this, but somehow I've been put into it. My name is Mawiya Shaddad. I am actually been involved in following climate change for a long time, although I am not, I am an astronomer. That's my profession, okay? They would like me to talk about the good old days and how everything seemed to have been plenty. I remember when I was at university, a colleague from a country was asking me, what is the system in your country? Is it 100, or is it 010, or is it 001? Honestly, I did not understand, because when I understood what he meant, because the system in my country was 111. That means in every house, you have breakfast, you have lunch, and you have dinner, okay? And it's a big blame to the neighbors and the people around you. If any of your neighbor hasn't got fire on, that means he hasn't got anything to eat. To be honest, I come from Sudan, used to be a very big country, okay? Food was available. We didn't have problems related to any kind of shortage at that time, okay? They say many years ago, around 1930 or something, the British were the colonizers. They advanced 3 countries of their colonies, investing people to come and settle on them. It was, and you have to pay about 25,000 sterling. It was Australia, Canada, and Sudan. Sudan many times was called the bread basket. Even when the Nile riparian countries, doing the Nile Basin Initiative, they were looking at Sudan as a source of food, of agriculture, okay? Unfortunately, I'll give you an example of how I did a study, although that's not my field. I said I am an astronomer, okay? I did a study during the conflict of Darfur about 20 years ago. I looked at rainfall, recorded rainfall from 1917 to 2003 at the Al-Fashir meteorological station. That's the capital of Darfur. The rainfall went from around 360 milli per year to 120, 140. And this has caused massive havoc among the various tribes and communities, that they start moving down, they start pastures against farmers, a lot of conflicts. It's not only food shortage and so on. You're gonna have massive conflicts all over many countries in Africa if the situation of climate change, and I'm talking about the data, I said from 1917, because climate change, when you talk over a 100-year period. You cannot talk about the variability of a few years, 10 years, no, okay? And that was the first proof. At the beginning, nobody believed the cause of the basic, one of the root causes of the conflict and the insecurity, and famine happened about 3 times famine in the area, was because of this long time degradation of climate. Until UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, came on and they confirmed the findings I had. Okay. In other countries, I remember I was lecturing somewhere near Bonn, and there were people from North Ghana, okay? I was speaking about the possibility because of lack of rain, of drought, and so on, there will be massive movement further south towards the equator. And the guy said, oh, we notice a lot of people from North Ghana is coming down south, especially young people. Why? Because land can no longer sustain them. The amount of rain has reduced them. So it's not my future. My future is nearly finishing. It's the future of the kids I see in front of me. Okay. And I know a lot of words being said by the previous panelists. But my concern, they focus the point as if it is internal, as if it's inside country, having policies, meeting together, design, and so on. The problem is far bigger than just internal. If it is internal, why we're here? Why we've been for COP29? The problem is not internal. And anyhow, in Africa, we did not cause this problem. Those children is going to suffer from a problem they never had anything to do with it. You know, the whole of Africa produces nearly 4% of the total world production of carbon dioxide and other emission. If you take South Africa, Egypt, and another, for instance, Nigeria, you have got about, say, 51 or 52 countries in Africa producing about 1%. We did not cause this problem, and we are not causing this problem. So we need not only capacitate the young people, we need them not only to get involved, we need them to push at an international level. We need them to be aware of the kind of negotiations that's happening, because they talk about funding, they talk about support to implement a lot of the policies. You want to feed those who are hungry, you want to feed those who have been suffering. How are you going to do that with the food insecurity? A colleague spoke about Southern Africa now suffering from drought. If you look at Model 8, it predicted during these years the northern part of Africa will have a bit of rain. Unfortunately, it's not a regular rain, so you can plan for agriculture, for pastoral. No. It comes in Sudan last year. Rain came in area and desert area where for 40 years they never saw a rain. It washed everything. People, houses, villages, crops, it just washed it. Massive, rains that washed everything. And as a result, a lot of people are suffering from in those areas of food insecurity. As I insist, please, young people, keep building your capacities. Keep fighting, because it's your future. Okay? Keep looking at those. Now you could see the negotiations. You could see by law there is adaptation funding. There's many issues we are not getting. So plan, think, and capacity, knowledge. Okay? And push any door and go in. Don't get worried about, I know when it is internal, you have politics, you have all the thing, and please. Always think that way. Always try, to build your capacity, to take lead, and not to forget only internal. Internally, you can have fantastic programs. But for how long? And who's going to go further? You need to address the international. You need to get yourself into these negotiations. You need to affect those negotiations. I attend negotiation for how many years? You need to be there. as I go back, when I am your age, honestly, I never thought there will be a day or a second I will not have something to eat. Plenty was an issue. As I said, in your neighbors, it will be shameful if one of your neighbor did not have fire for breakfast. You know, you put fire to cook food for the children. If yes, and you know that somebody in the neighbor didn't have fire, the whole place is blamed, shamed. They go and bring food and help and so on because things were available. I think you have more questions to ask me. Yes?
We just wanted you to share your experience.
You want me to say more?
But we can give time to the audience, maybe one or two questions.
As I say, I am a dinosaur in this process. Huh? Attended many. I was there with this, with the processes and so on.
So, children, you can ask if you have any questions.
Somebody at the back wants a question.
Okay, and thank you very much, our grandpa. We've learned a lot. So, because of time, we are rounding up. I gave you paper for commitment. We are going to collect those paper, and please, I'm kindly pleading to each and every one of us to work towards our commitment in our different countries, because climate change is not just an internal problem, but rather it's a global problem. We need to look and we need to watch ourselves as neighbors and ensuring that we provide solutions towards this problem. So now I'm going to welcome Sharon to give us the vote of thanks. Yes. You can still sit.
I'm just going to stand. Guest of honor, distinguished leaders, my fellow children and youth, good afternoon. I stand before you as a 14-year-old, a global climate activist, and a trade and tourism ambassador for the East African community. I am deeply honored to express my heartfelt gratitude to all who have gathered here to discuss sustainable food systems in the face of climate change. First and foremost, on behalf of millions and children on behalf of millions of children and youth around the world, I thank the organizers, experts, and leaders who have made this platform possible. I also extend my deepest appreciation to my fellow children and youth who are here today because this is our fight too. Climate change is stealing the most basic rights from millions of children. The right to food, the right to health, the right to education, and the right to a better future. It threatens not only the soil that grows our crops, but also the bigger dreams that grow within us. This is why the work we are doing here today is very vital. Let me remind you, real change comes from action, not just words and gatherings. Action is what brings change to any society and any challenges we face. So let us go back and take necessary and relevant actions to bring the change we desire. We, the children, have confidence that together we can solve climate change crisis and create a green and better future for living. To our leaders, we call you to implement policies that prioritize sustainable agriculture and protect the most vulnerable. To our farmers and communities, we thank you for feeding the world, but we urge you to adopt climate-smart practices that ensure food security for generations to come. And to the children and youth, our voices matter. Let's plant trees, raise awareness, and demand accountability. Let's turn our energy, creativity, and passion into action that reshapes the future. As we sow the seeds of change today, let us nurture them with unity, resilience, and hope. Together, we can build a world where every child has access to quality education, nutritious food, nutritious food, and a healthy environment, ensuring a thriving planet for all. Thank you for Thank you all for being the champions of this cause. Let's not stop here. The future depends on what we do next. Climate change is real. We must act now. My name is Sharon Ngomo, Trade and Social Ambassador for the East African Community and Global Climate Activist. Thank you.
I have a request. Grown up, please stand up. Let us clap for these children.
Thank you very much. Grandpa, thank you so much. We've learned a lot. We want to extend our thanks and gratitude to each and everyone that is listening to us. Indeed, we've learned a lot and you've contributed in making this particular program a success. We want action, and let's take this action to our different countries which we desire for climate change. Let's continue to ensure that there is food in each and every country so that children can grow up and become who they want to be.
Okay, thank you very much. It has been a very good session. And for this, I would like to close the ceremony with a story. As everyone has talked about children, everything that's concerning the agricultural system, they have related to children, and that's a very pleasure and thanks to them. To close the ceremony with a story, it's a story that is related to protection because we came here purposely to come and advocate for food security and others. So for this, I'm going to put the story under perspectives of protection. Once upon a time, there was a man who came out. He was actually going to bathe because he came out with the towel. He just tied it around his waist. And he had this young boy of his. The boy was still little. And you know, when you want to have fun with your child, you always just want to throw him up and all those things, right? I hope many of the many have done that to their children, even to your brothers and sisters. You can throw them up, catch them, yeah, that's fun. But for this man, his house never had what's it called, a wall, like a wall that to cover the compound. He never had it. So when he came out, he saw his small child. He took him, started throwing him up. They were just playing, yeah, they were joking. But suddenly, his towel kind of fell off, and he was maybe naked, and the child was up in the air. So what he had to do, he had to take the towel and put it back. But at the duration of taking the towel, the child fell down, and the child died. That's actually a relation to, in every situation, children need protection. Because every situation needs a solution. This man took him being naked as the most important thing to his child. There's no life worth with money. Is it money? Is it what? There's no life that's worth it. Because life is very special. So I just want to say, at every situation, children need protection. Thank you.
So thank you very much. We've come to the end, but allow me also to appreciate the different stakeholders who've joined forces, and we've come together as child-focused organizations on the African continent to bring these voices of children to this space, because one of the critical things that we know is that children always tell us nothing about us without us, and so the children are here, and I appreciate the different organizations. I can't name all of them one by one, but you are all appreciated for the role that you've played, also the government for the support that you've provided. These children are here as part of government delegations. Normally it's very hard for children to come to any spaces like this unless the governments are supporting. So I do appreciate the governments. I think from what I can see, we have children from South Sudan, from Sierra Leone, from Zambia. We have Tanzania as well. And I think we also had other children, but Malawi as well. And the other children who've gone to other pavilions. So there's a lot of parallel events happening. We have Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Somalia, and a lot of things are happening. So I do encourage you, especially for the government delegations that are here, please, please, please think about including children within your negotiations, within the language, within the text. It should not be assumed that by saying we are allocating financing for people, we are addressing the needs of children. We need targeted figures, targeted indicators, that will address the specific needs of children, especially for the new collective quantified goal on climate financing. It should be targeted towards the needs of children in order to address the problem of food insecurity. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of COP29.